And a move by presidential aspirants ahead of the 2019 general election to produce a common candidate fell short of consensus support, with frontline contender and former Central Bank Deputy Governor Kingsley Moghalu saying that the process fell short of democratic principles. We have with us in the studio Thomas Wilson-Ikubese, who was an aspirant on the platform of the Alliance for New Nigeria. He is also the convener of Yes We Feed Revolutionary Movement. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
First of all, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on the consensus that this party decided to have? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, what happened was on the 31st of July 2018, the young people who were running for the office of the president in Nigeria came together and decided to field a consensus candidate. The whole idea is that if all of us should go to the poll, we will end up dispersing the vote. People will keep voting for different youths, and the incumbent will just cruise home to victory. So the best way for us is to come together amongst ourselves, do an in-house election, and the fellow with the highest vote becomes a consensus candidate. And that's what we did last week, Thursday, on the 30th of August 2018, and the fellow that had the highest vote from that process was Fela Durotoye.
Well, Fela Durotoye emerged as the overall consensus candidate from the PACT meeting, but quite a number of others are aggrieved and have decided to leave and say, look, we are going to pursue our interests, elsewhere. And quite a number of people as well, even on social media, were saying, look, these are people who have been clamoring to, get into positions of leadership. If they cannot organize themselves when, many of them are already getting aggrieved, then what will happen at the national level? Doesn't it make you feel concerned?
Well, these are fitting challenges that we tend to have when people come together for the first time, but I can assure you we'll overcome this. But it's important that we state these things very, very clearly. Before we went into that voting process, we had to sign to an MOU that was actually prepared by legal counsel, and it had about 13 points. And maybe I should just mention what we have as the content of the 9th clause, which says that the aspirants agree that at the emergence of the preferred consensus candidate, all other undersigned aspirants shall garner support in all the fora for the platform to support the preferred candidate and build up to the 2019 presidential election. And the 10th clause says, the aspirant therefore agree not to further contest against the preferred candidate. Okay, so it's important that we clarify this, that what we signed to initially basically was that once we produce a consensus candidate, the rest of us will back down and support that singular candidate so that we can get Nigerians to vote for that person as the head of the team, and the rest of us make up that team as a build-up to the 2019 presidential election.
But you also had Article 13 also 13, that gives right to any other candidate to pursue his dreams. Let me
read that out.
Which was mentioned by one of the...
If that's what actually is there. Now, the 13th clause says, it is also agreed by the aspirants that nothing in this document herein shall infringe on the legal rights of any aspirant, including but not limited to his constitutional freedom of association, freedom of expression, and other rights as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and other relevant law. It didn't say that you should go ahead and run for election if you did not win.
But that is the portion that was capitalized upon, to move ahead by, some of the other aggrieved candidates.
I just read it to you. What is there? Basically, what is there is that nothing shall infringe on your right as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It didn't say you should go ahead and run if you did not win. The question I'll put to you is, if everyone should decide that if I don't emerge as a consensus candidate, then I can go back and run. So what is the essence of the whole exercise?
So what really went down during the process? If you would explain that to us.
Yeah, it's a very straightforward process, and that was why we invited the former Minister for Education, Dr. Ms. Obieze-Kwesili, to be the witness of what happened, and she made a tweet concerning that. We had a two-stage process. Okay. The first stage, the 11 of us that were there signed to this memorandum, and then we went on to cast the vote. Some of us had 1 vote, some had 0 vote, and 3 aspirants had 2 votes. Fela Durotoye, Kingsley Moghalu, and Matthias Babasado. 3 of them had 2 votes in the first round. So the 3 of them qualified for the next round of the election. And at the end of that vote, Mataz Babasado had 0 votes, Fela Dorotoye had 4, and Kingsley Mogulu had 3. It was a straightforward thing, and at the end of that vote, everybody, including Professor Mogulu, we embraced Fela Dorotoye and wished him well, and we went on and had a press conference downstairs. So it was a very straightforward, there was no ambiguity, there was no complication, it was a straightforward process that produced Fela as the consensus candidate.
All right, well, it was Plato who said, or submitted in his theory of state, that, look, leadership is deliberate and not by happenstance. That is to say that a leader must be a product of training, a product of education, one whose vision aligns with that of the state. Now, looking at the area of training, if you look at the world at the moment, they are heading in the direction of the young, you know, as leaders. But these young leaders who have emerged, Sebastian Kurz, Manuel Macron, you realize that they have been within the political process. They didn't just emerge. So many of you have not been involved in any political process. How do you think that this will impact on your decision to run for political office?
In most of the political parties, go to many of them, you find youth leader, 60 years old, 65 years old. The question is, over time, how much of entrepreneurship, how much of retainership, how much of followership have our leaders built into the young ones who are coming up? They haven't done that over time. And that's why you're saying that now the young ones are coming up to say, no, enough of all of this. We are coming out and taking our nation from the hands of those people, because there has been no succession plan. The same set of people who have been ruling us since 1970 are the same set of people that keep coming in and keep going out. They change from one party to another party without actually having a plan for the young ones. So those countries you're talking about, they had succession plan. Young ones are brought into the system and they begin to grow. But here, those who have been there, they never want to leave. So the best way for us is to break in. And it's not just in the presidency. Some of us are running for the president, some are running for governorship, some for House of Assembly. All across board, we're coming in to take our nation from the hands of those who have impoverished us so that we can make our nation into the nation we desire it to be.
All right, Thomas Wilson-Ikubese, convener of the Yes, We're Fit revolutionary movement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for coming to share your thoughts with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right.